Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 DraftKings prep show in all of the land. I am your host, Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this very episode, we're going to be breaking down all 12 fights coming up on UFC 276 from a DraftKings perspective. This event is huge, this pay-per-view. 2 title fights. As you can see right over my shoulders here, we have Cannonier taking on Israel Adesanya and Max Holloway going against Alexander Volkanovski for a third time. So this one is going to be very interesting. First things first, guys, if you could please take a look at teamriserfall.com. If you play DFS of any sport, of any kind, any contest, get on over to teamriserfall.com. Get a subscription today. Use code MONK, M-O-N-K, and save up to $10 today. We have all kinds of experts in every sport writing articles daily, coming with stats in the Discord constantly. Excuse me, sorry, I just drank a ton of water trying to get ready for this. I always seem to do that. So go check out all that stuff on teamriserfall.com. We have all the tools you need to get those takedowns no matter the sport. Code MONK, M-O-N-K. Guys, what else do we have to do before we get into it? Take a look at UFC Vegas 57 recap. I just released that show. It's a new thing. Usually it's going to be live going forward, but this week it is pre-recorded as I'm just getting ready for the pay-per-views. So usually it will be on Sundays after the cards at about 10, 11 Central Time. Go for about half hour, 45 minutes. We'll go over the optimal lineup from the night before, CM Monk's picks and predictions, and then also his bets that he made as well. So we will go over all that, the UFC recap show called The Morning After. So be sure to check that out for UFC Vegas 57. Now, guys, before, no more before. That's it. Let's get right into breaking down these fights for UFC 276. First fight of the night, we have Jessica Rose Clark going against Julia Stoliarenko. Yes, you're not reading that wrong. She is back in the UFC. Julia Stoliarenko. I'm going to keep this one quick. She's 0-4, hasn't yet to put up a UFC win. $7,600. She's coming in $325 over her average salary. She scores 1.66 points a minute, allows over 4, and 94 when she loses. This, again, is over 4 losses, almost 60 minutes of UFC fight time. She allows over 1 point a minute in takedowns and control time. Her statistics are garbage. Her strength of schedule is less than 70 in every category. Excuse me, which is where you want to be. And like I said, 0-4 in her last 4 UFC fights, or only 4 UFC fights. Jessica Rose Clark on the other side. If I'm playing one side of this one, which it won't be much, it is going to be Jessica Rose Clark's side. $8,600 is a great salary to play. She at least has decent scoring numbers, 3.2 points a minute, 93 when she wins, gives up 2.45 a minute, and 82 per loss. You're only paying up for her $243, but still, you're paying up for both fighters in this fight. That is not something you really want to see ever. She scores okay when she wins by knockout. When she wins by decision, 86, so that is just at the 10x point. 3 of her 4 UFC wins over 90 points, 1 of them over 100. Meanwhile, Stoliarenko has given up over 90 in 3 of her 4 losses and over 100 in 2 of them. Remember how we said Stoliarenko gives up over a point per minute in grappling? Well, Rose Clark scores over 1.23 points a minute in grappling, takedown and control time put together. Control time, in fact, 0.64 points a minute is the best number on the card. So this kind of looks like a gimme fight for Jessica Rose Clark. I don't know why they brought Julia Stoliarenko back into the UFC just to get beat by I keep calling her Rose Clark by Clark. Her name is Jessica Rose, not Jessica Rose Clark. So I just think this is a easy kind of win for Jessica Rose here. And at 8,600, I don't mind playing a bit of her. She is 2-3 in her last 3 fights. Trending up as far as her raw DraftKings points per minute. Julia is also trending up, but her opponent's well above her. The graph's not even touching there. Here are my projections. Whatever you think is going to happen, here's how I think it will score. And obviously much higher projections for Clark on the left side. The aggregate finishing percentages, very low for the most part. Especially in their finished losses. Like I said, I'm not going to have a ton of this one, but I do lean Jessica Rose. If anything, at 8,600, I'll have pretty much, next to nothing of Stoliarenko. I just don't like anything about the statistics that we are seeing here. Second fight on the card, Brad Tavares going against Dricus du Plessis. $8,000 for Duplessis and $8,200 for Tavares. I do like this fight. Heads up, get on over to the MMA Engine channel and check out Salary Voodoo, which also should be out by the time you're watching this, I'm sure. If it's any time past noon on Monday, it had better be out, or else something has terribly gone wrong. Or gone terribly wrong. Sorry, it's like 2 in the morning right now when I'm recording this, so I am a little bit tired here. Brad Tavares. Anyways, I was saying this fight is featured on the Salary Voodoo video, so check that out on the MMA Engine. Brad Tavares, very low scorer, 2.23 points a minute, 71 when he wins, gives up only 2.34, but 103 when he loses, almost 104, which means he's out here getting finished. And we look up and we see 3 of his 6 UFC losses. He is indeed getting finished. Over on the Duplessis side, the complete opposite, 5.82 points a minute. If he had at least 3 UFC fights, he would have a rank right here next to his number, and that would be for his ranking on the card for that specific statistic. But only has 2 fights. But if he did have a ranking, it would probably be number 1. And 109 points when he wins. Gives up less than 1 point per minute so far in his UFC career. That is only 10 minutes in the octagon, but still. And he has made the optimal lineup in his 1 fight since January 1st, 2021. You also get him for $300 under his average salary. Same with Brad Tavares. So you get a little bit of savings for both of these guys this week at the most closely lined salary of $8,200 and $8,000. Meanwhile, Duplessis, both of his wins over 100 points and one of them over 110. Meanwhile, Tavares only scoring over 90 in 14% of his wins. Meanwhile, giving up over 90 or more, I should say, in 5 of his 6 losses, over 100 in 3 of them, and over 110 in 2 of them. So Tavares, like I said, giving up a ton of points, and Duplessis scoring a ton of points. Duplessis also 1.29 points a minute on the ground, and Tavares giving up 0.74 points on the ground. Not look good here. Tavares, like I said, averaging 60 points, 61 points given up in just bonus points to his opponents. Meanwhile, Duplessis at even 80 points there. Excuse me. We have our relevant fight stats, all green for Duplessis as you would expect, but still a pretty small sample size compared to Tavares' 20 UFC fights. Strength of schedule, you'd like to see these numbers over 70 to 75 is pretty good. We are over on both sides of the equation here. Dreykus Duplessis over 75 in almost every category, but it is red all the way across, meaning Tavares has an even better strength of schedule in his last 5, where he is 3-2, fighting the likes of Adesanya, Shoeface, Edmund Shabazian. Meanwhile, Duplessis starting his UFC career with Marcus Perez and Trevin Giles. So decent strength of schedule in his last 5, but not quite as good as Tavares. Meanwhile, our DraftKings points per minute, as you would expect, Duplessis well above his opponents, trending up. Brad Tavares also trending up just barely, but below his opponents. Here are my projections. Obviously much lower for Tavares, and the real estate for Duplessis is better in every category, except just poking up for the strength of victory for Tavares and the distance striking points per win. And then the aggregate professional and UFC career finishing percentages. We will, stick around at the end. I will show you Computer Monk's picks and how he thinks these fights are going to finish as soon as we're done with these 12 fights. I will be playing probably a bunch of Duplessis. I just really like him here over Tavares. Has been finished, like I said, 3 of his 6 losses. Meanwhile, Duplessis with KO, TKO wins in his first 2 UFC fights. So much like some of the other, up-and-coming prospects like the Shavkat, who's not really a prospect anymore, or the Umars, I will kind of keep playing Duplessis until the wheels come off, until I'm shown otherwise. So I'll have much more Duplessis than Tavares here, but I will play a bit of both. Be sure to check out Salary Voodoo. Pair this with that video, and you'll definitely know which side to play and why. Trust me. Third fight, Jessica Eye going against Maycee Barber. We'll keep this one short here. Somehow Jessica Eye has made the optimal lineup in 1 out of her past 2 fights. Oh yeah, she made it when she lost. It was against, it had to be this one, Joanne Wood, making the optimal lineup in a loss. I don't like the Jessica Eye side. She is 1-4 in her last 5, 2 points a minute, 75 when she wins. I don't like any of her numbers here. You do save $800 by playing her, but give me the Maycee Barber side, but not a ton. I'm not going to be going crazy here. 2.79 points a minute is all she scores, less than 90 when she wins, only gives up 83 when she loses. Meanwhile, Jessica Eye only giving up 85 when she loses. So I see women's flyweight, I automatically target it because if you've listened to me, you know that it is the most likely to make the optimal lineup in the past, year and a half, in the past 60 some events, has the highest percentage of making the optimal lineup. So if I'm picking one, I'm not picking the Jessica I side. I will pick the Maycee Barber side. Let's see, 3 of her 5 wins, she has scored over 90, 2 of them over 100, and 1 of them over 110. Meanwhile, Jessica I has given up over 103 of her 9 UFC losses. She's 5-9 UFC. Here are the relevant fight stats. The one big thing here is the strength of schedule in the last 5. Maycee Barber's strength of schedule is trash. You know, basically under 65 in every category, in the 50s in her opponent win record, which is 59-48. Meanwhile, Jessica I actually has a decent strength of schedule in the mid 70s all the way across the board. Her only win in her last 5 against Viviane Araújo, in which she scored less than 70 points. I am not really interested in the Jessica I side. Both women here trending down, very low projections. Like I said, I'll have a bit of Maycee Barber, but at 9,100, I mean, that is expensive to pay for Maycee Barber here. I mean, she has a decent record, 5-2, done pretty well in her last 5, but you're paying up $400+ for her, and she doesn't even give you 89 points when she wins. So I will be fading this fight in general, but definitely the Jessica I side. I'm going against the women's flyweight statistic of 58%. So keep your fingers crossed for me. 4th fight, Uriah Hall going against Andre Muniz. And please, guys, before we get into this, thank you for joining me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We just passed 300 subs. I was hoping to do it before this pay-per-view, and we did it before UFC Vegas 57. So thanks a ton. And be sure, if you're new here, to hit that bell as well so you know when all my stuff for DraftKings and anything for any UFC information is coming out from your boy Monk. So hit that bell, hit that sub, and hit that like. I appreciate it for real. Uriah Hall going against Andre Muniz here. I'm going to be heavy on the Muniz side, 9,200. I do like him as one of the upper echelon plays this week. Has made the optimal lineup in 1 out of his past 2 fights. Scores very well per minute at almost 3.5 points, 96.5 when he wins here. Yes, you can see my cursor. Uriah Hall on the other side, not a very good score. 2.38 points a minute, 88 when he wins. He is extremely cheap, though. $7,000. Has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 2 fights, and I'll give you one guess as to which fight that was. Excuse me, and how many strikes he threw. He scored exactly 115 against Chris Weidman. Obviously, we all know what happened there. But yeah, has no offense of any kind and still made the optimal. On the freak accident, gives up 3.12 points a minute, 94 when he loses. So I do like that if you're on the Andre Muniz side like I am. Muniz, 3 wins by sub out of his 4 UFC wins, 103 when he wins by submission. Uriah Hall, when he loses by submission, actually has never lost by sub, but when he gets KO TKO'd or when he gets finished, 106.81. He has been finished 3 out of his 8 losses. He is 10-8 in the UFC. Let's see, Muniz, 3 of his 4 UFC wins over 90, 2 of them over 100. And Uriah Hall has given up over 100, in 4 UFC losses and over 110 in 2 of those losses. Gives up almost 1 point a minute on the ground against Andre Muniz. That is not where you want to be, as he scores over 2 points per minute on the ground. So this is going to be a big problem for Uriah Hall. These statistics right here, 0.47 points against in takedowns per minute and 0.48 control time. Meanwhile, Muniz, 1.41, the best number on the card in takedowns per minute, and the second best number in control time, 0.64. And in fact, it might be tied for whoever we talked about before at that. Let's see our relevant fight statistics. Our strength of schedule, which, no, not too surprisingly, is going to go to Uriah Hall, fighting the bit better competition. But Muniz' strength of schedule is no joke. Every category over 70 and no defeats in his 5. Fantastic. Raw DraftKings points per minute. Uriah Hall trending down. Not what you want to see. Meanwhile, Muniz going way, way up. His opponents also going up, but they're not too high to begin with. Here are my projections for the fight. Obviously, Muniz with the higher projections in every category and almost winning every category as far as the visual statistical recap, especially that win percentage, 100%. And the finish rates are very, very high in this one. I'm sure Computer Monk thinks this one's going to finish inside the distance. Be sure to stick around to find out. Like I said, I like the Muniz side. I will not be very high on the Uriah Hall side. I think he's 37, almost 38 years old. Muniz, another one, guys. I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry, but until I'm shown otherwise, I will not be fading Andre Muniz. He scores 96.5 points a minute. He put up 108 against Eric Anders. He put up 107 in Jacare Souza in his last 2 fights. So keep it going. Give me the triple-digit projection for Andre Muniz and a finish over Uriah Hall. Get him in your lineups. Next fight, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I feel like I've said this guy's name 3 times in 6 weeks. I wonder if that's true. Going against a different opponent, not Joe Lozon, Jim Miller. I'm going to be on the Miller side here, guys. 8,700 for Miller, 75 for Cerrone. Miller has made the optimal lineup in 2 of his last 3 fights. He scores decently per minute, 2.5 points, run of the mill for the card, 91 when he wins. But lately, he has been doing pretty well for himself. 100 points in a finish win over Nicholas Mata and 103 in a second TKO win in a row against Eric Gonzalez. His other win in his last 5 was a sub against Roosevelt Roberts, in which he put up 95. So I like Jim Miller for cash. Not too much GP. I guess, no, that's not true. Against Donald Cerrone, that would definitely up his exposure for me in GPPs. Let's see what Donald Cerrone gives up here. 2.64 points a minute, 99 is what he gives up per loss. He does score 3.22 points a minute and 98 when he wins. But guys, we got to scroll it down to his last 5 fights in which he is 0-5. The strength of schedule, if I could speak, not sound like Porky Pig here, 77, 76, and 75, fantastic. His strength of victory, I don't even have this error trapped because it's very rare that a fighter is 0-5 in their last 5 and fighting in the UFC. So there is a big error right here because he has no wins in his last 5. Meanwhile, Jim Miller's strength of schedule is no joke, mid-70s to high 70s and even 81 in the strength of defeat. I mean, Cowboy Cerrone, what's he putting up here? Raw points per minute, 1.51, 2.53, 0 against McGregor, and 1.58 against Gaethje. Meanwhile, Jim Miller scoring 4.36 raw, 6.4, and 2.25 in his win. So Miller, I just love the scoring upside for Miller here. Again, I think Cowboy's probably done, and if he's not done, I think Miller is a little bit more game than Cowboy is. Coming off of 2 pretty good-looking KO TKO wins. So give me the Miller side. I know the projections are a bit higher for Cerrone, but again, I'm really focusing here, in Cerrone's case, on the last 5 career fights. You can do the same with Miller. He's 3-2. That's infinitely better, exponentially better, rather, than 0-5 from Cerrone. So I will be favoring the Jim Miller upside. I like it inside the distance, and he's probably not going to be too low owned. At 8,700, it is a bit risky, but I'll probably be close to the field on him. Cerrone, play at your own risk, guys. I honestly don't think he's going to do much here. And I could be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong, as I do like both of these guys. But I will be much heavier on the Jim Miller side. Very low exposure to the Cerrone side for me personally. Next fight, Ian Garry, his 3rd UFC fight, going up against Gabe Green, fighting in his 4th UFC fight. Gabe Green is the one out of these 2 that has made the optimal lineup once in his past 2 UFC fights. He is $7,400 this week, going against, like I said, Ian Garry at $8,800. Very large salary gap there. 3.8 points a minute for Gabe Green, 4th best on the card. 98.51 when he wins. Gives up a ton of points, though. 4.19 a minute, and in his 1 loss, almost 106 points. You do get him for 367 under his average salary, and he does have an average value of 10.65, the highest. Actually, in his 1 loss, he did score 51 points in that loss, so pretty high floor according to just that 1 fight. I know, very small sample size, so you can't really measure it like that, but still, pretty decent numbers, but pretty bad defensive numbers from Gabe Green. Ian Garry, so far in the UFC, nothing really to go out and throw in your lineups, at least statistically speaking. 2.56 raw DraftKings points a minute, only 85 when he wins on average. Let's take a look. He scored 62, less than 62 against Darian Weeks, and 109.11 in his KO against Jordan Williams. Meanwhile, Gabe Green never been knocked out or subbed in the UFC, only been finished once in his career. So we're not, probably not thinking Ian Garry finish here. Unlikely, maybe not unlikely. He does have 6 of 9 professional wins. So 2/3 of his wins he has finished. Gabe Green seems pretty tough, but does give up a ton of points here. Still, I don't know how much of a fan I am of paying $8,800 for Ian Garry. Run-of-the-mill numbers. His strength of schedule is trash. Gabe Green's strength of schedule is probably one of the higher ones on the card, looking at this, in the 80s and mid to high 70s in every single category. I mean, Ian Garry did not look great against Darian Weeks. Granted, maybe Weeks looked, better than a or a $7,000 fighter. That's for sure against Ian Garry. But how much of that was, the inexperience of Ian Garry? I don't know, man. He's only 24 years old. I'm probably going to be on the Gabe Green side here. Maybe not to win the fight, but at least for DraftKings, $7,400. It's worth a stab, especially at that 51 in his last loss. So if this does go to decision, he could score well, for a loss. I'll be focusing more on him for cash, probably. Probably not out in GPPs. I don't know, man. Ian Garry's never been finished. So play at your own. I'd be pretty low on Green for GPPs, but I don't mind playing him in cash. Meanwhile, Ian Garry, I guess a little in GPPs because he did finish Jordan Williams in that first round. I believe it was the first round. Yeah, right at the end there, and did score 109 points. So that would be pretty decent at the $8,800 price point. So don't zero out Ian Garry, but I'll probably be under the field there if I had to guess. Next fight, and I have something in my eye. Robbie Lawler. Lawler? Who says it like that? Sorry, guys, had to get some Smurf juice in me. Robbie Lawler going against Bryan Barberena. Oh, man, what a good fight to target for DraftKings. $8,500 against $7,700. Barberena has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 3 fights, but let's start with the Robbie Lawler side here. 2.61 points a minute, 88 when he wins. Pretty low numbers. Not impressive for that $8,500 salary, which does have a pretty good salary Voodoo, I should say. Got a decent score and has a pretty, okay win rate. Actually, it's 50-50. The win rate for 85 and 77 is 50-50. Lawler gives up 3.17 points a minute, 110 when he loses, guys. Man, up your exposure to Bryan Barberena because $7,700 is the best underdog salary you can possibly play. It's, I think, the 6th best salary overall. Just incredible. Like I said, wins 50% of the time. I absolutely love this salary. So up your exposure to Bryan Barberena a bit. And he doesn't score poorly either. 3.62 points a minute, 96.65 when he wins. Gives up a ton of points though. Triple digits, 1.1 or 101.88 and almost 4 points a minute against Robbie Lawler. So let's take a look at some of these finish rates. Where are we at here in the finish rate? So, man, this is going to be close. Computer Monk is going to be close here, picking inside the distance or goes the distance rather. We'll have to take a look at the end of the video. I think it's going to be close, but if one of these guys lands a finish, it could be later in the fight. Maybe doesn't score too well. Who knows? I might have a bit more exposure to Bryan Barberena. As I said, the $7,700 salary is surprisingly an excellent salary to target. Barberena has scored over 90 points in 6 of his 8 UFC wins and over 110 in 2 of his 8 UFC wins. Meanwhile, Lawler has given up over 90 points in every single one of his 9 UFC losses. Wow. Over 100 in 5 of them and over 110 in 3 of them. So play at your own risk. Also gives up almost 1 point a minute in takedowns and control time. Not that Barberena really does any of that. He also gives up a ton of points in takedowns and control time. This one could be sloppy, could be a banger, and somebody could get finished here. Now, if they do, like I said, it could be late. You're getting a 70, 80 point knockout victory in the 2nd or 3rd round. That's no fun. But Barberena did put up 96 in a split decision win over Matt Brown, but only 79 against Weeks and 81 against Ivy. Meanwhile, Lawler put up 97 over Nate Diaz, and that's his only win in his last 5. Also something to consider. He is 1-4 in his last 5. But the much higher strength of schedule, in fact, Barberena's strength of schedule is very, very bad. 60s, 50s across the board for the most part. Here are my projections. In the raw DraftKings points per minute, both fighters trending up, but Barberena trending up at a steeper rate. In the aggregate finishing percentages, Pretty really close to 50%. In fact, I bet Computer Monk is going to be, right over the 50% mark as far as it finishing inside the distance. This one is a decent one to target. I do like the Barberena side a bit better from a DraftKings perspective, but as far as picking a winner, I'm probably going Robbie Lawler just because I'm biased. So that's why we have Computer Monk. Take the bias out of it. Next fight. How many more do we have after this? We have 4 left after this. What's the time? 25 minutes. We're cruising, baby. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that bell. Brad Riddell. Brad, hit that bell, Riddell. Actually, his nickname's Quake, but, I do what I can. Going against Jalen, the Tarantula Turner. I love this fight for DraftKings, guys. This one also featured on Salary Voodoo on the MMA Engine. Link below in the description. Go ahead and click it after this one, and it'll take you right over. It's about a 15-minute video, probably, if I had to guess. I haven't actually recorded it yet, but by the time you see this, I have recorded it. So I have actually recorded it, and it is about 15 minutes. Yeah, this one is featured. So pair this with that, and you'll know what to do for DraftKings. Jalen Turner, one of the best scorers on the entire card, you guys. 4.25 points a minute. This is over 7 UFC fights. 115.92 per win, and that's 5 UFC wins. Gives up 3.16 points a minute. And 100.87 when he loses over 2 losses. And he's coming in barely over his average salary, 233 over. 10.75 average value, a raw DraftKings points differential of 1.09 points. Fantastic DraftKings numbers, especially on the offensive side for Jalen Turner. In fact, all 5 of his wins over 100 points. You got to get this guy in your lineup just for that, right? 3 of the 5 over 110. Let's take a look at some of the Brad Riddell numbers. 7,800, scores 3.18 per minute and gives up 3.18 per minute. Only scores 80 when he wins and 71 when he lost in his 1 UFC loss. He is 440 under his average salary. So both these guys pretty close to their average. Here's the big difference, guys, right here. I'll scroll up a little bit. Only 1 of Riddell's wins has he put up over 90 points, never touched 100, and he's never given up even 90 points. So not a lot of points in Brad Riddell fights. In fact, I would wager to say, yes, all 4 of his wins are decision wins. He did get KO TKO'd in his last fight by Rafael Fiziev in 3rd round. Let's see, Fiziev would have scored not very many points. 26 plus what? 45 is, watch me do math, 71. So something, 71.67. So not a great score. I probably could have looked right here where it says 71.67. Super. It's like I made this whole thing or something. Anyways, the big one here, one of the reasons why I'm targeting this fight, not only for the low salaries, and again, the salary voodoo, just a spoiler alert. 1, 2, 3 out of 6, actually no, 3 out of their past 4 fights. Riddell's made the optimal in 1 out of his past 2, and Jalen Turner in both of his past 2. So 3 out of 4 fights, they have made the optimal lineup. Fantastic. I like to target this fight. I like the Jalen Turner side, obviously, for the DraftKings upside. Maybe Brad Riddell I'll target a little bit in cash, but 80 points in a win tells me, 4 UFC decisions, that if he's beating you, he's going to, do it by decision. That's the most likely outcome here. Jalen Turner, there is a path to victory here by KO TKO finish. He has 3 of them in the UFC. His other 2 UFC wins are submissions, so who knows? A finisher 100% in the UFC. So I like Jalen Turner's huge DraftKings upside, and I will have a ton of him at $8,400. I'll probably be over the field, to be quite honest. But I do like this fight, especially that side from a DraftKings perspective. Next fight, very exciting. Pedro Munhoz going against Sean O'Malley. I love the Sean O'Malley side here, $9,300. I don't need to talk much about him. He's DraftKings gold so far. Made the optimal in 2 out of his past 3 fights. 4.41 points a minute, the number one highest number on the card. 104.61 per win. Gives up less than 2 points a minute and 10 average value, and he's only 250 over his average salary. Guys, I absolutely love the Sean O'Malley side of things. He's put up over 90 in 6 of his 7 UFC wins, over 100 in 5 of them, and over 110 in 2 of them. Pedro Munhoz on the other side, 6,900, has made the optimal in 1 out of his past 3 fights. perfect chin decks, never been finished by KO, TKO, or submission in his career, let alone the UFC. 2.93 points a minute, 98 when he wins, so decent numbers there. Gives up 2.79 and only 81 when he loses. Now, he does tend to go to decision. Like I said, never been finished. Let's take a look at his decision numbers. I think I scrolled past him. Yeah, scores 89 when he wins by unanimous decision and gives up 86 when he loses by unanimous decision, 74 split decisions. In fact, his opponents have only scored 90, let's see, in 3 of his 7 UFC losses and never touched triple digits. Meanwhile, he is scoring pretty well, but in his last 5, guys, he is 1-4. Going against Sean O'Malley, who is 4-1. Obviously, the strength of schedule is different. O'Malley is down by about 10 points in every category across the board. Pedro Munhoz, one of the best strength of schedules on the entire card, losing to Cruz, Aldo, Edgar, and Sterling. I mean, all these guys were former champions or right there knocking on the door. His one win in his past 5, Jimmy Rivera, and that did happen at plus money. Like you would imagine, his raw DraftKings points per minute dropping, and he is almost below his opponent, but not quite yet. And Sean O'Malley, so far above his opponent and trending up. Here are my projections, much higher for O'Malley. Finishing rates, etc. I love O'Malley here. I will not be very high on Munhoz. I'm not going to be 0, but I'll probably be less than 10%, honestly. 2.93 a minute, 98 when he wins. I'm just not expecting O'Malley to lose. I know he has a loss over Chito Vera. Obviously, that happened probably because of an injury. Whether or not it was caused by Vera is apparently up for discussion in Sean O'Malley's head. Obviously, I think it was. But he does have that loss. But until I'm shown otherwise, again, I'm going to be putting my Sean O'Malley eggs in the basket. I love him here. I love the salary Voodoo at 9,300. I love his optimal percentage, and I love the DraftKings upside. One of the better top 2-3 scorers on the card, Sean O'Malley. So give me Sean O'Malley in GPPs for sure. Co-main event of the evening, guys. Sean Strickland going against Alex Pereira. 3rd UFC fight for Pereira. 15th. Excuse me. I think that Smurf blood gave me the hiccups or something. I don't know what's going on. Sean Strickland, 15th fight in the UFC. We get Sean Strickland at underdog salary pricing. Can you believe it? Against a guy with 2 UFC fights. This is fantastic. Smash Sean Strickland in cash. Just do it. Just put Sean Strickland in your lineups in cash. $7,900. It's probably the easiest cash play you can make. And I guess Alex Pereira at 8,300 is a decent GPP play, although you're probably not going to finish Sean Strickland. I guess that is always a possibility with Alex Pereira, since he is such a prolific kickboxer, etc., etc. 8,300 for Pereira. I don't mind him in GPPs. Don't play him in cash. Strickland, cash, Pereira, GPPs, but Strickland way higher in cash than the Pereira side in GPPs. 3.15 a minute for Sean, 93 when he wins, gives up only 2 points a minute and less than 90 when he loses. You get him at 600 under his average salary, average value of 9. I mean, these are fantastic numbers. 58% of his 12 UFC wins, he scored over 90. 41% of them, almost 42% over 100. But he does give up a ton of points. But he's only has 3 losses, guys. In 2 of those 3 losses, his opponents have scored over 100. Meanwhile, Pereira, 3.66 points a minute, pretty decent as far as DraftKings scoring per minute goes on the card. 87.12 when he wins, guys. That's it. 2 wins over Bruno Silva and Andreas Michailidis. 87 points in his first one, 86 in that recent one against Bruno Silva. This is going to be, I'd be shocked if this hits the ground unless somebody gets knocked down. This is going to be a stand-up battle. Obviously, Sean Strickland is a crazy person who will take a ton of damage, but probably stay at range as much as he can. Meanwhile, Alex Pereira is going to be, according to the UFC, 3 inches taller than Strickland with a 4-inch reach advantage. So Strickland's going to have to stay at range even more than he usually does, but I still like him here, especially, like I said, in cash. 93 points for $7,900 fighter is pretty damn good, in my opinion. That is the 10th best rate on the card. So give me Strickland in cash, Pereira in GPPs. I don't know if I even showed the rest of the stuff here. Pereira's strength of schedule obviously is worse than Strickland's. Neither of them have any losses in their past 5 fights. That is definitely, you know, the loser of this fight is going to have their first loss in quite a while. And here are my projections. Pereira with the bit bigger of real estate, but Strickland sticking out in a few categories. The finishing rates probably going to be less than 50% here after it comes out of the equation from Computer Monk. So I'm thinking there's 3 things that are going to happen here. One of 3 things. The most common, or the highest percentage, I think, is Strickland decision, in which he scores 93 points. Second highest is probably either Pereira knockout, or Pereira decision, and then Pereira knockout. Those are the 3 things. Strickland decision, and then Pereira knockout, Pereira decision. Probably in that order, but I don't think the Pereira knockout happens. And if this goes to decision, it's probably going to be Strickland. So I like Strickland by decision here. 90 points at 7,900 is a decent cash smash. Co-main event, guys. We did it. Here are the 2 fights we all care about the most. This one is probably going to be the better of the 2, in my opinion. Alexander Volkanovski going against Max Holloway. Number 3, guys. Number 3. Volkanovski at $9,000 is a GPP steal. I will be smashing him in these lineups. 1 fight out of 2, he has made the optimal lineup. Max Holloway at 7,200 is an absolute GPP smash spot. This fight I'll probably have close to 100%, if not 100%. Max has made the optimal in both of his previous 2 fights. Let's start with the Max side. You see all this red for Max? Max's numbers are crazy good, and Volk's are better everywhere. It's ridiculous. Max scores 3.49 points a minute, 104, almost 105 when he wins. 105 when he wins. Shouldn't it be a little higher than that, honestly? Because in his last 2, he's put up 153 and 209. But his average per win out of 19 wins is 104. So he's not putting up 200, 150 points in every fight, just in his last 2. So still, that is something to consider. Pretty ridiculous numbers if you ask anyone. That was a hiccup. Excuse me. 2.44 is what he gives up, 97 per loss. He's scored over 90 in 58% of his wins, over 147%, and over 110 and 32% of his wins. At the $7,200 price, that salary has a win rate of just 28%. I'm leaning Volkanovski here. Let's get into some of his numbers. 4.24 points a minute, 110 when he wins, gives up less than 2, less than 1.9, less than 1.8 points a minute. Insane. 12.6 average value, and he's coming in only 264 over his average salary. Easy smash spot for Volkanovski, in my opinion. The $9,000 salary has a 71% win rate. Absolutely love that. Volkanovski's put up over 90 points in 10 of his 11 UFC wins. 72%. He scored over 100 and 36% over 110. Scores over a point per minute in takedowns and control time. Meanwhile, Holloway scoring just under half, allowing just under half point per minute in those categories. Volkanovski, the overall best fighter on the card, according to statistics, and that's probably not too surprising. Max Holloway 4th, probably, behind Adesanya. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Volkanovski, strength of schedule, a bit better than Holloway, whose schedule is also fantastic. Perfect in his last 5. Holloway 3 and 2 in his last 5. These Volkanovski wins, you take round by round scoring out of it, you use just metrics only. Volkanovski won both fights. The first one very close. The second one not as close, but still pretty close. But I just like Volkanovski here in the third. I just do. I'm going to have much more Volkanovski than Holloway. Maybe 2-1. Honestly, play 100% of this fight. 2-1 Volkanovski to Holloway. Both fighters trending up. Both fighters well above their opponents, but a much wider gap for Volkanovski compared to his opponents. Here are my projections. In fact, the finish projections higher for Holloway, but the decision projections are higher for Volkanovski. Very interesting. Here is the real estate of the DraftKings visual statistical recap. Very interesting graphs there. Very interesting. And then the aggregate pro and UFC career finishing percentages. Computer Monk probably thinks this one is going to go the distance. I tend to agree. I like Volkanovski decision for a third time. and I think he scores well. What did he score against Holloway? First one, 94. Second one, 102. What did Holloway score? First one, 53. Second one, 42. Sneak peek for the Pub Sports DraftKings show on Wednesday. Check it out. I'm probably going to stack this main event, or this co-main event, rather. Wait, is that true? Yes, that's true. Probably going to stack the co-main event, unless Brady has the exact same lineup as me again, which, you know, there is a very obvious cash lineup out there this week. If you're stacking the main, it's not very difficult to get to, so we'll have to find out. But I don't mind stacking this for cash. I mean, they're putting up ridiculous numbers in their last two and in their own fights. But I will be 2-1 in GPPs. Volkanovski to Holloway. Guys, we did it. Before we get into the main event between Adesanya and Jared Cannonier, hit that like, hit that sub, hit that bell. Thank you so much. It does mean a lot. We're on the road to 350. Try to hit it by the end of the week, but I'd be shocked if that happened. So just, yeah, anyways, get on over to the MMA Engine. Click the link below to get into Salary Voodoo, and then you can check out all of our other content that way. And check out teamriserfall.com. Use code MONK, M-O-N-K. Save yourself $10. And also, right after this fight, we are going to get into CM Monk's picks and predictions for this card. Main event of the evening, guys. Israel Adesanya, Jared Cannonier. Israel, $9,400. The most expensive fighter on the card. Jared Cannonier, $68. I am going to choose a side on this one, and it's probably, it's obvious to me, but maybe, actually, you know what? I'm fading this one. I'm going to have 1,000,000 times more percent of the co-main event than I'm going to have in this one. Izzy is way overpriced. He's this week's Jinyu Frey, in my opinion, honestly. He should win the fight, and he's way overpriced to the point where you cannot play him. He scores 2.29 points a minute. That is 17th best on the entire card out of 24 fighters. 17th best. Also 17th best is his DraftKings points per win, 87 when he wins. And this guy's had a ton of 5-round UFC fights. In fact, more 5-round fights than not 5-round fights, if I had to guess without looking. Gives up 1.89 points a minute. Fantastic defensive pace. And when he lost to Jan Blachowicz, he gave up 116. He is 473 over his average salary. These numbers are very, very low. I'm fading the shit out of Izzy this week. Only scores over 90. Sorry, he has put up over 100 in 5 of his 11 UFC wins. However, a lot of those were pretty early on and nothing really recent. You know, he put up over 100 against Costa, but other than that, he hasn't put up over 80 something. Just not run-of-the-mill striker, but as far as DraftKings points, I mean, all he does is strike. He has 0.03 points per minute in his career on average, and that's just control time. So I imagine that's clinching up against the cage. Let's get into Cannonier's numbers, who are just as unimpressive as Izzy's numbers. Honestly, 2.19 points a minute, 90 when he wins, gives up 3 a minute, and 93 when he loses. The one thing is he is $1,100, almost $1,200 under his average salary. So that is a 1 bonus. But other than that, I mean, what are we paying for? At least he's $6,800. What are we paying for on Izzy's side? I do not get it. 5 of 8 of Cannonier's wins, he's put up over 90. In just 2 of them, he's put up over 100, and 1 over 110. Again, another guy that does not put up any takedown or control time points. Both guys give up a ton, but neither one does it. So I'd be surprised if this one sees the ground at all. Strength of schedule is pretty good, in the 70s, upper 70s across the board. Both guys 4-1 in their last 5. You know, here are my projections. Nothing crazy. Barely any triple digits. Finish rates pretty low. I'm sure Computer Monk, it's not a spoiler to say he thinks this one is going to go the distance. I mean, if Cannonier doesn't, this is going to be Israel decision, in which he's going to score what? On average, 77.43 points, 54 in a split decision. Or it's going to be a Cannonier win by KO TKO, in which he doesn't even score 98. He scores 97. So I'm going to be, this might be a hot take. I don't know if you want to call it that. But I'm going to be big fading this one, and I'll probably have more Cannonier than I will Adesanya. I would say play Adesanya in cash, but at 9,400, there's no point. You could easily find someone who's more consistently puts up higher numbers for a cheaper price. So give me Cannonier and GPPs, and I'm going to be fading this one. I like Izzy to win, but I'm going to be fading this one for DraftKings. Guys, we did it. Before we get out of here, as promised, let's take a look at Computer Monk's picks for last week. UFC Vegas 57. How did we do? Not great. 7 of 5. We had a rough go of it all night. 58%. Actually, you can't see that. 58%. There you go. 155 out of 256. So we have lost our 101st fight. We are 155 and 101 is our record since we've been doing this. Since the first of the year, rather. Wait. Yeah, first of the year. 60.55%. So we did drop by 0.11%, but still had a winning week. Pulled it out. The Gamrot decision pulled us out of a rut there. So we lost Bout, we lost Giagos, we lost Brown, we lost Kelleher, and we lost Frey. We did hit the Durden underdog, and we did hit, let's see, not that one, not that one. I guess that was it, really. One underdog. That's disappointing. Wah. But here is the DraftKings optimal lineup. Very, very low salary here. Shavkat Rachmaninoff, 9,300. Carlos Oberg, 8,300. Cody Durden, 8,000. Josh Parisian, 7,800. He was the highest score of the night. Shailan Nurdenbeek, 105. And Matej Gamrot, 106.74. Those were the 6th highest scores of the night. Those salaries added up to just $47,800 for a total score, 661.05. A lot of the underdogs coming through. In fact, 4 of them, not only won, but made the optimal lineup. Oh yeah, we picked Gamrot. That was our other underdog pick. So we did have 2 of them. But there you go. That's the DraftKings optimal lineup. Those are Computer Monk's picks from last week. And in fact, you probably didn't even need to see that. We probably just wanted to talk about this. UFC 276. Here are his plays. And I think we lost an underdog. Who did we lose? Somebody we lost, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, Jessica Rose Clark by decision. Dricus du Plessis by decision. Macy Barber decision. Andre Muniz by finish. Jim Miller by finish. Gabe Green decision. Robbie Lawler by finish. Jalen Turner by finish. Sean O'Malley decision. Sean Strickland decision. Alex Volkanovski decision to retain the title. And to also retain the title, Israel Adesanya by decision. Guys, those are Computer Monk's picks. Please check out Salary Voodoo, link in the description. Also, check out the UFC Vegas 57 recap. We just briefly did it right there, but check that out over on the MMA Engine. We will go over the picks, the optimal lineup. I know you probably don't need to see that part, but the more interesting part to me is Computer Monk's bets over the past 4 weeks. I do have, this is pretty much automated. I've automated the money line bets, what I should wager, what he should wager rather, the goes to decision bets, and the finishes, does not go to decision bets. So check that out. Everything's automated, and we are keeping track, seeing how we're doing so far. In 4 events, we're down, I think, 5%. We had a really bad first week, and we've rebounded every single week since. So check that out on the MMA Engine. It is called The Morning After. And that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We nailed all 12 fights in under 50 minutes. Fantastic. Other than that, I got nothing for you. Enjoy the content-heavy week that not only I'm going to attempt to bring you, but all of us over at the MMA Engine, Brady, Wheezy, and at Lou Betya, we're going to be jam-packing your YouTube feed with UFC 276 content, so get ready for that. Everything's coming out early this week, at least on my end, and we are going heavy, so don't miss a thing. Thank you all for joining us, and as usual, I want all of you to enjoy the fights. So enjoy, and we will see you next time.